friends, it's Veronica, and today's video was inspired by a stomachache. I drank some bad almond milk yesterday, which you wouldn't even think would be the same as drinking bad cow milk, but it is. It's pretty bad. Um, and I didn't really know what was going on yesterday, and for the whole day I went for a pretty long run, and I was trying to explain to myself these symptoms that I was feeling. But because all I had was just a mild stomachache, I just, explained it away in other ways. And what I found was that my physical symptoms kind of started to turn emotional. By the end of the day, I started feeling like I was fighting off this big, horrible depression. I was feeling really heavy and I've got some poetry to show for it, because anytime I feel like that, I try to express it in words and in prose. And I thought something was really emotionally happening to me, and I couldn't really understand what it was. And then this morning, I'm not really sure what compelled me to smell the milk before using it, but I realized, oh yeah, there was like a weird taste to it yesterday. So that's all it was. That's all it was the whole day. I guess I had just had this mild food poisoning. And the reason I wanted to make this video was because that happens to me a lot, actually. I will drink too much coffee, and then I will feel like I'm getting anxiety about things in my life, right? I'll just get anxiety, and then I'll explain the anxiety with, oh yeah, it's because it's because this thing is happening, or it's because I'm worried about this other thing, it's because that's this person said that. And it really takes a moment of mindfulness to step back and remember that yes, our emotions come from our thoughts, right? But not all of our thoughts are interpretive. Not all of our thoughts are these judgments upon reality. I mean, if we say that a thought is just a brainwave, then that brainwave could be reacting to a physical state of being created by the foods we eat, and whether or not we're moving around, and how well we're taking care of our bodies, or surprise food poisoning. And it's so important to keep that in mind, that sometimes that our emotional responses do react to those things. Since I started running long distances, I found that my stress amount is just so much lower. And it's not because there's less to get stressed about. It's just because it exhausts all this energy inside of you. And what I've learned about myself over the past year is that I have so much energy inside of me, and I wasn't doing anything with that. And that gives a really good explanation for some of the problems with severe self-judgment and anxiety, especially social anxiety, that I've had in the past. Now that I've started really taking myself out, for like 2-3 hours, running for 2-3 hours, I'll come back and there's none of that buzzing, floating emotional energy to interfere in anything. And so what I have started doing is, every time I'm about to get on a plane, I work out before I get on a plane. Or if I'm going to go to any social occasion, I work out before that. And it fixes it. And that doesn't mean that the thoughts of, oh no, they're not going to like me, I suck, and all of that. I mean, those thoughts still do produce a certain level of emotion, but you know what? When I take care of my physical self, when the physical self is not producing any kind of negative emotional feedback, then the emotions that come from those interpretive thoughts are actually really easy to handle. Then I can kind of look at those thoughts and say, well, I don't really want to think like that. It doesn't really grip me in quite the same way. So that's kind of my little tidbit of wisdom for today, that if you're having trouble with these really intense emotions that you're having a lot of trouble handling, I've always been an advocate for watching your thoughts, questioning your thoughts. And that is really important. But if that feels impossible for you, if you're getting overtaken in these emotional states, then it really has to be a holistic approach. You really have to take a look at what what else could those emotions be reacting to? Could they be reacting to these sensory experiences, to these brain waves that aren't just interpretive, aren't just judgments on reality, but actually do reflect some part of reality itself? Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. I've noticed feelings of depression if I don't get enough sleep, like if I have to catch an early plane, or if I'm doing like a house sit and I have to leave early or come early, I get really intense feelings of depression, and I get really strong urges to binge eat. And I used to just feel depressed and binge all the time because I was always sleep deprived. So there was no chance for me to see that difference between those two states. But now I know. It is not that some mysterious chemical wave has descended upon me and now I'm going to be trapped in this period of depression until it decides to leave me. It's a feedback on the way that I'm living my life. It's feedback on the experiences that I'm having in daily life. I've noticed with anxiety, hormones are huge, caffeine is huge, and any kind of lack of exercise. If I don't run at least every other day, horrible things happen. But also if I don't stretch to balance out the running, and if I don't sometimes, work out with others, take a group yoga class, or, just do something different, then I start to get this feedback from myself. And that's really important, to be able to take that feedback and think of it as the body's just speaking this foreign language. And I'm trying really hard to decode what my body's saying, even though every time that I feel something, there's this assumption. I make an assumption. Like yesterday, I made an assumption that, maybe I just shouldn't have drank a coffee 2 hours before running, and maybe it's just too sunny. Like, that's not really a very good explanation for why I was having a stomachache and feeling kind of delirious, actually, while I was running yesterday. But it was the best explanation I had. And, I just settled on it, and I didn't look as deeply as I could have. And I wondered last night what was going on. And it wasn't until this morning that I found out, the real reason. And I suppose I'm making this video just as much for myself as for you, that we all, have, as a community of people on the journey of self-discovery, I think we have to remember that there's no finality to it. It's not like you discover something about yourself and then that's handled. It's a kind of materialism. People think, I've bought the perfect couch, so now I don't have to take care of that. I've bought the perfect TV, so now I don't have to worry about that. And I think sometimes we can do the same with self-discovery. We say, I figured out what the feeling of anxiety, or what the feeling of depression, or what the feeling of a stomachache means to me, and now that's handled and I've got my hands wiped of it. But it's not like that. The same symptoms will mean different things over a lifetime. There's so much room to interpret. There's so much room to ask questions and say, well, is it maybe this? Is it maybe that? I don't usually have problems with what I eat. I don't eat meat, and I know that I react pretty badly to meat. I know that if I eat dairy, then something might happen. So I'm really aware of that. I eat lots of vegetables. I'm really aware of my eating. So the reason that I didn't even consider that I had like mild food poisoning yesterday was because there's some part of me that thinks, I've got this food thing, handled. Right? And I don't. And I think we have to keep reminding ourselves of that. There's also no magical precipice where you always remember that you don't have things handled and everything's a journey. Like, that's a constant journey too. It's a constant journey to remind ourselves about how none of the things that we discover about the world are final. Because the mind does want to make these conclusions, right? Like, this is how things are. This is true. This is what I've discovered. And we have to keep kind of stepping into that arena and saying, well, what if it's not? What if it's something else? And be open to asking new questions. Be open to receiving new answers. Just be open in general. Be ready to throw away everything that we think we know today in order to find something else tomorrow. And yeah, that can be very difficult because we do want to make these senses of self, and we attach how much we know to the sense of self. But if you can start to develop a sense of self beyond the answers and the questions, but beyond what you think you know and what you don't know, and just kind of let it be funny, because it's funny to think you know what's going on, but then you don't, right? Then it becomes more like a little game, and that's kind of how I feel right now. I was inspired to make this video because I thought, oh, isn't that neat? Isn't it neat how I still misunderstand, and I will always misunderstand, and how I found this answer. So the point of this video isn't to say, hey, if you have a stomachache, consider that you might have mild food poisoning. I suppose part of the moral is like, smell the milk. That's probably an ancient piece of lifetime wisdom. Even almond milk, smell the milk. But the moral of the story is also stay open to the interpretations you have of the symptoms you experience, of the side effects you experience, right? And allow there to be room for your feelings to be a feedback on something that's happening in your life, as opposed to just a senseless suffering, just like a senseless, pointless, this happens to you because you were born broken kind of mentality. Okay? I hope that those two very valuable pieces of wisdom are good for you. Okay? And maybe you can leave me a comment below and let me know if there's ever been a time when you've thought that you really knew what was going on. You thought that you were interpreting some kind of feeling or some kind of state appropriately, and then you found out that the answer was actually something radically different. Okay? So share your stories with me, please. That would be great. And as I've said before, if you want to see me make videos about any topic, then let me know. I'm very open to that. Okay? Have a good day.